everyone, and welcome to another episode of Creator Tea Talk, where we spill the tea on all things relating to the creator economy. I am your host, Jayde Powell, and today we're going to be discussing the Black creator economy. Now, this episode is actually a continuation of two episodes that I did last year. Yeah, last year. I had to really just think about the time for a second there. Um, which were the Tea on the Black Creator Economy parts one and two. And of course, because it's Black History Month, I really wanted to just bring it back for part three because I felt those conversations were so incredible. So I put together an insanely talented panel of Black creators and marketers to discuss how we can build a more inclusive creator economy. But before I have the panelists introduce themselves, I wanted to give a shout out today to today's sponsor, Sprout Social. The team and I at Sprout have really been collaborating together for what feels like a billion jillion years. So I'm so excited to have them be a part of this. And that said, I wanted to have Greg from Sprout introduce himself and tell us a little bit more about Sprout Social.
A billion jillion in the best way possible, right, Jade? I would say that at least ours. And so, hey, y'all, I'm Greg Rakiski from Sprout Social. I use he, him pronouns. I'm currently a social strategist at Sprout and was a longtime fan and customer prior. Just a little bit about us. We have a great team that makes up our social team, made up by another strategist, Carly, a social analyst, Olivia, and all overseen by our fearless leader and director of social, Rachel. I'm based in Lansing, Michigan, and have worked with brands, creators, and influencers across many industries and countless campaigns, as Jade mentioned, even some on this virtual stage right now. Shout out to Jade and Brandon. And I continue to learn from folks like y'all in this fast paced digital world, and super pumped to hear y'all spill the tea on this topic in particular. And Sprout is so proud to be a sponsor. For those of you that don't know, Sprout Social is a social publishing, scheduling, and reporting platform that gives teams tools needed not only to elevate your social strategy, but also to prove impact and enhance your workflows and provide ROI on campaigns like influencer and creator efforts. So, all of this so you can focus on building insights driven strategies that will take your brand to the next level. We also offer employee advocacy and influencer and creator management solutions. So, if you're interested in any of that, feel free to connect with me after, but I'm very social. So, regardless, please connect with me after. And with that, I'm going to step down and let y'all spill some tea.
Thank you so much, Greg. Like I said, y'all, me and Sprout, we go together real bad. I was working with Sprout like as a social media manager like early on in my career. So it's just amazing to kind of go on this journey with them. So I appreciate you being supportive, Greg, and I'm happy to have y'all a part of this. So now I want to give my panelists some time to introduce themselves so everyone can get acquainted. But I specifically ask that when you're introducing yourself, you also tell us where you're based. I feel like I always forget to ask panelists to do that. So I wrote it down this time around so I'd remember. But yeah, I'm going to kick it off with who I feel like is now a Creator Tea Talk veteran at this point, Joy Afodu. And Joy, after you're done introducing yourselves and telling us where you're from, you can popcorn it to whoever you'd like on the panel.
Period. Hey, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfectly.
Lovely. Jade, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be a vet. Hey, for everyone listening, my name is Joy Ofodu. I believe I was one of the first creators to start talking about the Black creator economy as a thing. I Googled it to check. I began publishing on what I call the Black creator economy in September 2022, and I can't find nobody doing it before me. So it's really great to be able to sit in this subsection and be able to advise others on how to navigate this wild landscape that we're in. I am a voice actor and creative executive. I have been involved in voiceover performances that can be heard across children's animation, games, film, and music. I have my own self titled media company. We've published two original shows, including Dating Unsettled, which is a podcast recently supported by Apple Podcasts, GMA, and Netflix. I also have a community of almost 300,000 online daters and affirmation seeking comedy lovers. So I love producing digital comedy for those folks and have partnered with tens of brands from Meta to The Daily Shine to Dove to DirecTV and more. And I will just say it is a privilege to be Black. It is a privilege to be an artist. And it's a privilege to be a Black artist and an actor in this economy. I feel very, very grateful for it and happy to be speaking with all of you. I am born and raised and live in it and will always rep the San Francisco Bay Area. Passing it to Brandon.
Period.
Hard to follow voice actress. Hey everyone, my name is Brandon Smithrick, based in Brooklyn. Uh, Jay, this is actually my first LinkedIn Live, so I'm actually excited. Right now, I serve as head of content marketing for Kickstarter, the crowdfunding platform for creative ideas. Before that, I ran social at places like Squarespace and Ralph Lauren. But I'm also a creatorpreneur, which is, as you probably can figure out, a combination of being a creator and an entrepreneur. I think I'm fortunate enough to do it in both the B2B and B2C space. So I've worked with brands like Notion to Gymshark to Etsy to even Sprout Social. So I'm excited for this chat. I'm gonna popcorn it over to Amber.
Thanks so much, Brandon. Hi, everyone. My name is Amber Kai. I am based in LA by way of the DMV, so I'm not sure if there's any DMV people in here, but hey. I'm very honored and excited to be a part of this panel today. I have a little bit of a different background than the rest of the panelists. I have been on the backside of the creator economy since 2013. I started off in the MCN space, and that evolved to me working at companies that were acquired by Google. And then I went on to work on the team at YouTube. From there, I headed up influencer partnerships at Refinery 29 and Vice Media. And so I've been doing this for almost a decade. Similar to Joy, being the only Black woman in this space for this long, it's been a really incredible journey to see more beautiful Black and brown faces become a part of the conversations on the side of the table that control the funding and the money. And that's what's always been a big part of my career, is not just working with Black creators, but making sure that brands understand the value of Black creators and the longevity and the importance of the social impact of Black creators. And that's what I do every day. I now head up my own company, Sequential, where we've partnered with over 300 brands. And we have fostered over $5 million in partnerships for Black creators. And we're looking to expand more into the community space. And that's what our newest venture is for 2024. I would love to pop it over to Kadeem.
Thanks, I appreciate it. My name is Kadeem Fletcher. I've worked on the agency side, and then recently, the last 3 years, I worked for Macy's doing influencer marketing and also custom content partnerships. So basically, all the influencers that came through from Macy's for the last 3 years or so, I reviewed, vetted, and also looked at their content on top of working with multiple other publishers such as Complex, Who What Where, Refinery 29, Google, a bunch of others. And yeah, I'm actually Trinidadian. I was born and raised there, so I was 13, then I moved to New York. Recently, I just moved to Florida last year after building a house with my wife. But yeah, and currently we have a really good cookie business that's doing amazing. So just kind of pushing with those things and whatnot. But yeah, excited to be here. I'll pass it on to, I hope I pronounce it correctly, but is it Kara? Oh,
Absolutely.
Kira?
That is perfect. You had it
Oh,
right.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Kara Horton. I am based in Kansas City, Missouri, born and raised in Sedalia, Missouri. Y'all have never heard of that, but now you have. I am a social media marketer, mostly with agency, in-house, and a freelance background. My social media management career started 10 years ago, back in 2014, which is crazy to say. And essentially, I've been at it ever since. I've been super blessed to have worked with some pretty dope brands, mainly in the entertainment space. So brands like Amazon Music, Rotation, Onyx Collective, Culturated, powered by Prime Video, and really excited to be a part of this conversation about the creator economy. My personal experience with the creator economy thus far has been on the agency side, helping to identify creators for campaigns. So just really excited to be a part of this conversation.
Thank you, Kara. And I just saw that Imani was able to come in. So please, Imani, introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. Interestingly enough, this is a creator session, and this creator could not figure out how to get off of mute. So, hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. I am Imani B. I typically do travel content with a bit of like cultural immersion. I've been an expat for the past 8 years. I've lived in 5 countries, so I like to talk a lot about that. And then I also like to talk about social justice things that I think, matter with marrying the travel component. So even things that are happening overseas and abroad and things of that nature. So I really enjoy that part of what it is that I do, because in my career, I'm a journalist. And so storytelling and telling impactful stories is really important to me. So I like marrying those two ideologies of content and editorial media and fusing that in like pretty much my day to day.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to have everyone on this panel. I feel like I've been following all of you for so long, and it's nice to just have you all in this space and shoot the shit. So let's get into it. I want to start off with what I feel like is such an iconic moment from a fellow Black creator of ours, Melissa Kimball. I know a lot of you follow her and know her. Because she is known for many things, but including being the founder of Black Creatives. But she's also very well known for a tweet that she published, which said, "This world does not move without Black creativity." And we've literally seen it on billboards, which, again, iconic. So with Melissa's tweet in mind, this world does not move without Black creativity. My first question for you all is, how would you describe Black creativity or content, and what does it mean to you personally?
Yes, I could go first. I'd probably say like Black creativity is like innate, and I say that because it's like we have so much culture and it's so robust that it feels it is natural for us to kind of exhibit that. And I think, being that it's so natural, that also poses problems because a lot of times people are pushing out ideas into the world, and because they feel it's so natural, or they believe that they could come up with another idea, they won't protect it as much as it's needed to be protected. And then, of course, someone else may come, take that, or whatever the case may be, take advantage. But for me, I just see it as being one of the most natural things there are out there. And, as far as like, Black creators go and just Black people in general, like, there's a bunch of cohesion, even when there are like diaspora wars, like you can still feel the cohesion within like the entire race. And I think that really helps to drive like the cool factor and like the history that we make, because it's really just us living in like our everyday resilience, and just the understanding of the world is from a very specific lens that tends to be inspiring from other people who don't actually know what it's like to be Black. So yeah, I think that's what it means to me.
Does anyone else want to add to that?
I can go next. When I think about Black creativity, I was like trying to distill it down. The only thing I can think of is that it just hits different. Like we have to move different, we have to think different, and oftentimes what we've conditioned ourselves to do, because we're so used to not having those traditional methods of getting to the top, or launching your business, or starting just like whatever idea you have. You're used to finding those doors, or creating those doors, or expressing in a different way, or telling stories that you feel like aren't being told. And what that mindset has produced is art, content, and creative that just like hits different. Not really brushed up for LinkedIn, but yeah.
I love that you said it. It hits different, because that's a fact.
I love what everyone is saying. To piggyback off of both of those things, I think what's incredible about Black creativity specifically is that as Black Americans, we are not a monolith. And something that I enjoy as a Black person consuming other Black content creators' work is that there are things that I've never seen before, never experienced before, that I can experience through the lens of another Black person. And that inspires my creativity even further, because someone is taking the culmination of their experiences, their life, their background, their history, wherever they're from, their regional knowledge, and they're pouring it into their work and utilizing that to express their voice in a unique way. And I think that that's something that makes Black creativity so special and unique, and just really amazing to be a part of and to witness.
I think similar to Amber, I love how much Black American culture and creativity is influenced by that melting pot. Like I see a mostly Black audience, I think even with us listening in today. So I don't need to reiterate the things we already know about how incredible we are. But on a personal front, I think I'm inspired to see and actually learn about different aspects of Black culture through this creativity. Like the fact that folks from the islands, I heard Trinidad earlier, like folks are really taking over. You see Cheryl Lee Ralph, Rihanna with her influence. I had the opportunity to travel to Grenada with the Grenada Tourism Board just this past year and bring some of that magic back to the US. I'm like, whoa, like starting to see how things are influenced by different aspects of the Black diasporic experience. Lynn Vinay, who's a wonderful creator represented by Color Creative, which is like Issa Rae's brand. Lene, she just launched a whole line inspired by the Gullah people, which is like I thought. Here's me thinking the Gullahs out in the Caribbean. Nope, like that's a U.S. based Afrocentric ethnic group. Like that's nuts. So I think that there's just things that are coming out through our entrepreneurship, through our television shows, through our voice acting, through our shoes, through our campaigns, through beauty products that are calling to the experience of what it's like to see a people that has been largely enslaved, colonized, etc., break free, gain independence, stop attending certain institutions and award shows and looking for validation outside of our culture, and starting to build that for ourselves.
Absolutely. And I think to piggyback off of what you're saying, in my opinion, Black creativity is multifaceted. It is multidimensional. But also to that point, Black creativity, in my opinion, is leverage. Like if you can create something just from an idea or a thought in your head or a feeling in your spirit or just a gut notion, if you can create something from that, then your opportunities are endless. Like just the world is at your fingertips. So that is the most beautiful thing about Black creativity. And then for content creation, when it comes to creating content, that is your digital legacy. Like in many cases in our generation, the content that we put out on the internet and out into that digital atmosphere, that will outlast us. And also just to tie things up for me personally, Black creativity is a spiritual expression. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Thank you, Kara. I love that you said that it's a spiritual expression because that's not something that I feel like I have heard from a lot of creators, especially when I think about creativity in general. For me, like you, it is very inherently spiritual because it's like the essence of who I am. It becomes within. So I feel like that's a great reminder to share with people, like, you know, even in moments of creative block or when you're experiencing doubt, like it's almost a practice of your mind, of course, but also like who you are internally. So I love that you said that. It's actually interesting because I want to kind of circle back to a couple of things that a few of you guys mentioned, more specifically about the diaspora. And this kind of made me think of this question because recently, again, Sprout is today's episode sponsor. And I also recently talked to Sprout for a blog article that they wrote about how brands can celebrate Black History Month, like all year round, of course. And one of the things that I talked about was that typically what happens with brands is when they're reaching out to creators or influencers for potential brand partnerships and they think about celebrating Black History Month, they typically kind of hone in on the US or sometimes Canada. And they kind of forget that there are Black creators outside of the US and Canada. So I'm curious if you guys have any thoughts on like what brands can do to kind of tap into the Black creator economy across the diaspora and what those relationships could look like.
I'll just jump in real quick because I mean, when I moved here at 13, like I remember like coming from Trinidad and like going to a junior high school in Brooklyn. And like sometimes like I remember classmates who were, I guess, African American, they used to not even call me black because they were like, you're from the Caribbean, right? And I'm like, what? Like that doesn't like that doesn't negate my blackness, but it's also kind of like the confusion that like people have put into place to kind of make these internal and awards that go on in our society, whether it is on local land here or internationally or whatever the case may be. And I think it's a problem before we even solve it from a creative standpoint. It has to be solved from just a human standpoint, right? Like we shouldn't be pinned against each other because we are in a different region and we may not have had a zip code, or you know what I mean? Like it's not the same within like those commonalities. So I think just from like our end, like we have to be a little bit more focused in terms of understanding that we're all a part of the same entity, right? Like we're a part of the same community. We just may look different a little bit. We may have a little bit different customs and whatnot, but when it comes down to it, the foundation is very consistent across the board. But when it does come to the companies as well too, they should recognize this as a moment to really kind of like usher in this new wave of, I guess, like unity or whatever the case may be that you can look for. But I think it's simple. I think it's just one of those things that I said, those invisible walls that have been put in place for us to not be on the same accord, for us not to be successful or united all the time and whatnot. So yeah, it's one of those hard things that to tackle, but over time, I believe we can fix that problem and turn it into something beautiful as well.
I hear that, Kadeem, and I echo that. I think as a creator who is Nigerian and like also coming from an immigrant community in the United States, but who was born and raised in the United States, it just feels good to be included. Like my entire life, I have lived a Black American experience as well as a Nigerian experience and Nigerian in America experience. And it's like my life is a melting pot. So to be included in these conversations and in these campaigns is beautiful. And then I think maturity, because a lot of, our tribes can be ethnocentric, right? Or tribalistic. Maturity in the Black creator economy is looking at the ways that we can step outside of what is it to be Igbo and be Nigerian and have Burna Boy playing in Starbucks and at every club. And let me hear a little Tyler. Let's give Tyler the Grammy. Talk to me, South Africa. And let me see a commercial with some twee in it, and let me start to learn about something that's happening outside of myself and outside of my culture. Like there's no need for the Black American experience, for the Ghanaian experience, for the South African, for any one country to dominate the entire time, but rather that we start to make room for each other's perspectives. And there's a lot of beautiful campaigns I've seen recently that I think are activating on this. I believe his name is Jeremiah, that NFL player, walking out looking like a king and all his fits. Y'all know I'm talking about. The man looks good.
Yes.
He looks good. It's great. It's so good to see that. And then also touching on, like, I mean, the trailer just dropped for Iwaju, Disney's first collaboration with a Nigerian animation studio. This is freaking cool. Young Love and Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur are two series created by or starring Black creatives and voice talents that are currently available right now on Disney. That's like showing the Brooklyn experience and showing how Black kids grow up with Jewish kids and Puerto Rican kids. And I'm like, this is this is the America that I've been missing on television. This is the America that I'm it's hard to be proud, but I'm not gonna go deep there. This is the American film environment that I'm proud to participate in and lend my voice to as an artist.
I would love to add, especially having lived like in so many places. I've lived on the continent of Africa. I think education is key for the brands, and education is key for creators as well. I think people really have to understand our interconnectedness. Like we are more alike than we are not. And to Kadeem's point and to Joy's point, like with Joy, I grew up in Prince George's County, Maryland. Majority of my friends were Nigerian. Okay. You couldn't tell me that when I went to their home that I didn't belong. I remember going to Johannesburg, South Africa, and I felt like this my people. Like this, what you saying? These my cousins for real, for real. And even to Kadeem's point about the Caribbean and how it is that people kind of like segment Blackness. Is like, we have to remember, especially if we just start at the transatlantic slave trade and we're talking holistically about Black history, those people came from the continent of Africa. They were forcefully brought to the Caribbean and South America and parts of North America, but not the bulk of North America, the Caribbean and South America. And then in some ways and shapes and forms, here we have us. I identify as Black American generationally, and then we have us as well. So it's like we are cousins. And I think ultimately, if brands can get that education to understand the interconnectedness of who it is that we are, to be able to share the beauty of who it is that we are through that interconnectedness, and how it is that we are able to showcase what it is that we do. I loved what the NFL did with Ghana and being able to give people an insight into Accra. We got Dirty December for a reason, to show what it is that Black joy looks like on the continent of Africa. We have Carnival that is happening right now in Trinidad, that we can see what it is to be Black and beautiful and Caribbean, and understand the cultural history that goes behind it. Not just that people are wearing costumes, but there is a cultural history of the food, of the garments, of the music, of everything. And I think that that's the important part. And it's important that brands understand to utilize people who understand that, people that come from these cultures, people that have insight into these cultures, not just people who know how to do marketing, who know how to do, influencer, things, but people who actually come from within the culture to be able to help spearhead and groom campaigns such of this, magnitude.
Beautiful. Thank you, guys. It's interesting. I want to kind of go back to something that Joy mentioned, which is like always a favorite topic for me, which is Rihanna. And he talked about Rihanna's impact, and it's so funny to always think about her, because I immediately just think about the fact that like she is literally a billionaire, which someone argue is, some people could argue is problematic. That's another conversation, but she's literally a billionaire. And I just can't help but think about how it's like she's come from this small island and was able to have such an impact and be on like the main stage at the Super Bowl, and literally everyone was calling it the Fenty Bowl and making it all about her. But thinking about a moment like the Super Bowl, especially where we see a lot of our marketing and advertising moments, even Rihanna, she kind of used it as an opportunity to promote her own brand, Fenty Beauty. It kind of makes me think about this study that I was reading by Group Black and Nielsen. They released the Black Creator Economy Impacts Report, and they basically found that in comparison to their non-Black counterparts, Black creators generate a higher media value compared to non-Black creators in fashion, lifestyle, and gaming. And they found that Black creators in the lifestyle category performed 10 times better than their non-Black counterparts, and then 6 times better in gaming, esports, and 1 times better in fashion. So I'm curious if you guys kind of think that this value can like benefit brands in a way that's not just directly related to their products or services, or just in more ways that we might necessarily not be thinking of.
I would love to speak to this. And so this is a big part of what I've been building out for the last decade in terms of market research and really understanding the impact and the drive that really impacts the revenue and the returns for a lot of these brands. So, and just to kind of tackle back here just a little bit, I think to everyone's point in our last topic, talking about making sure that we're connecting and we're bringing in that Black experience, it is so important for these brands to have not just one, but multiple Black people on their team who can tell these stories, who can share the impact and the importance of Black creators. I cannot tell you how many times I've worked with brands, and even on campaigns where they're looking for Black creators, and not one person on the brand or agency side is Black, let alone a person of color. So I always say it's important to make sure that we are educating each other and talking to each other and building community on the agency and the and the creative side, and helping each other and making sure that we're bringing the legacy, because the problem is really that the information has to be passed down. If you don't have a Black person in that room who knows and understands what's available, what the resources are, what the materials are, how much money is available, how much budget brands have to spend historically, then Black creators end up missing out down the line because nobody is saying their names in these rooms. So I just wanted to kind of preface my point with that, but there's so many ways where we can drive new creative ideas. And especially, I know that you mentioned lifestyle and gaming, but beauty is actually one of the biggest areas where black and brown audiences tend to take their advice from whichever creators they're watching. We actually did a few studies at Refinery where we noticed that specifically Black creators, their audiences were 2 to 3 times more likely to spend, and that Black women per capita actually spend the most money on hair care, beauty, and skincare. And so these things are really, really important, and brands are starting to pay attention. But it's taken people on the actual teams to say, "Hey, we need to start really thinking about how we want to use this data," because the truth is that you found out. How did you find out about Eco Styler gel? How did you find out about that specific foundation? How did you find out about that stuff? It's like word of mouth, and the impact of the people around you who are using it is really what's most important in the Black community, and that's what sticks.
I echo everything Amber said. I want to chime in that on the nature of like that report or stats that we hear about how influential Black creativity is or how strong individual performers can be. What I struggled with and what I tried to contextualize in 2022 or begin to understand is that even though we have the ability to outperform, even though Black folks as a community are the highest consumers of media, we are still the least funded, like under 2%. So we have overrepresentation on the consumption end, but on the entrepreneurial end, vast underrepresentation. Only 10.6% of Fortune 500 CEOs are women. So how many of them do you think are Black women? When it comes to even the industries that you named, like gaming, okay, let's take film as a comparison because we're still studying the gaming industry. Within film, Black females constituted 3.7% of leads, even though we constitute 6.5% of the US population. This is around 2019. So it could be a little bit better, but it's not that much. Shonda did a lot, but she didn't do that much for film. So what do you think is happening in games where gaming companies are based in the US and based in Asia and are not largely representing Black women at scale? Even though we have the ability as creators to overperform, we're not being given the funding. We're not being given the opportunities. Lifestyle as a category. How many Black lifestyle creators can you name? A lot. How many can you name that are in the top 10% of earners on YouTube? Not a ton. You might have Jackie Aina, Monet Clark on your fingertips. They're not in the top 10 of earners. So there's this like vast disparity between what we know we are capable of in these demonstrated anecdotal instances of Usher bringing out Kappas at the Super Bowl, and there's rollerblading, and we're excited about it. And Usher's not getting paid to perform at the Super Bowl, and he's trying to generate revenue. Like it's frustrating to see that we have this talent, we have this potential, we are demonstrating in ways that are very worthy of celebration, but we aren't getting funded in the same way. As a creator myself, I've been creating comedy content, comedy short form videos since 2020. My lifestyle videos vastly underperform. And I realized people like to see me perform, they like to see me in character. They might have a role for me. They might have a schema based on film and television stereotypes that date back to the 1930s, 60s about what it is to be a Black woman performing and what role do Black women serve on camera and in your ears. And it's to soothe you as a calm, meditative voice, or it's to entertain you as a clown, as a buffoon, as the butt of a joke. And if we're not doing either of those and we're just showing you our lifestyle, it's a lot harder for us to earn money because maybe you don't think Black women's lives are worth watching unless you too are using that eco styler. So it's something that is tense and something I want folks to pay attention to, that even though we have these standout anecdotal moments, we at scale are not represented on camera. We're not represented in the stats and entrepreneurship. I was just informed that Black women are the fastest growing entrepreneurial group, but don't take fastest growing for dominating.
Joy, you talked about the disparities for Black creators and how so few are creating businesses of their own. And feel free to answer this question yourself or anyone else on the panel. I think, Brandon, I think I saw you come off the mic really quickly. But I'm curious if you guys have any advice for Black creatives who want to get into their creatorpreneur era or launch brands of their own.
Go for it. I could speak on this all day if I want to share space.
Yeah, I'll say one thing quickly because when you often hear that stat around, and it's very true, Black women are the largest group of future C-suite executives, founders, entrepreneurs. I remember I had a discussion with someone about this, and they were saying a lot of the reasons why Black women are the biggest group of entrepreneurs and founders is because corporately they face so much pushback and growth disparity that they often have to make their own pathway to have financial gain. So it's not just a stat about, oh, well, look how great they're doing. It's a stat that actually, if we dive deeper, it speaks that, we're not supporting them in these ways. And to make a living, they have no other choice but to start their own business. So that's something that I would just go back to that. But to answer your question more directly, in terms of being a creatorpreneur, this was another conversation I had with someone around, we are often taught hustle, do this, make some money, hustle. And when I talk to people who want to be entrepreneurs, it's kind of this mindset shift. You don't want to hustle, you want to build, right? When you're hustling, you're like, all right, cool, what's hot? Crypto, I'm gonna do crypto. What's hot? YouTube, let me go to YouTube. What's hot? TikTok, let me go over here. And oftentimes, as a creator, that confuses your audience. Versus when you build, you're building something more sustainable. So cool, I'm going to build my content output. I'm just going to create a bunch of content that's going to niche down. From there, I'm going to grow my community. Cool. Now let me think about monetization. Is it a digital product? Is it a course? Is it an email list? From there, let me reach out to brand partners. I'm going to monetize through sponsored content. But my audience is kind of used to this. I've conditioned them to be welcoming of this content. But at the same time, when a brand's going to boost my video, I'm going to work with them. I'm also going to drive visibility to my channels where people can still buy my course. They can still buy my digital products. And now you're kind of monetizing your brand in a bigger way. So when I talk to people about being a creatorpreneur, it's having that entrepreneurial mindset going in. What are the multiple streams of income that you're going to set up for yourself? That way, this one partnership is going to pay you in 3 different ways.
I love that. And I consider myself a creatorpreneur, but on the product side. So 2 years ago, I actually launched my own luggage line. And I often call it a successful failure because this was my baby, y'all. I was like, this is going to be it. It's a multifunctional luggage line. And one of the things that I just, you don't know what you don't know. And I didn't realize just how much startup funding is necessary. I did not know the disparities, especially when it comes to Black women receiving funding for their businesses, for their products, in the same way that it's, sometimes challenging for us to get the brand partnerships and the money that we're asking for and things of that nature. And so why I call it a successful failure is because the line was amazing. It landed in every single travel publication that you can think of. It landed in H&M on Fifth Avenue and sold out in one day. But I have not been able to attain the funding necessary to relaunch my line. And so I think that that's something that people that are looking to do product-based businesses, make sure that you understand that pipeline in terms of funding and in terms of having to bootstrap. I spent a lot of my own money and pretty much to Brandon's point in terms of finding ways to reinvest in yourself through your content. At the time when I launched my luggage line, I wasn't really getting brand partnerships and things like that. So I was really like getting it out the mud in terms of like 9-to-5 work, freelance work, whatever it is that I could put towards my business. I was doing that, but it's not really sustainable in that way if you're not somebody who is not making a certain amount of money. And so I will definitely impart that to anybody who's a creativepreneur that is building like a tangible product, whether it's a beauty product, whether it's, and understand your market fully. Because one thing that I didn't really foresee, even though I did all the research I could think of, was that a lot of places that were investing and wanted to invest and the grant money was going to tech-based businesses. So because I didn't have like a plug that somebody could plug into my bag, it didn't necessarily, sit well with the people that were looking to fund businesses during these past 2 years. So that's also something to consider in terms of knowing your market and really understanding where the money is going and how to get it to keep it sustainable.
Well, first of all, Imani, I didn't know that. So, one, congratulations. It's overdue, obviously. And I love the transparency there because I feel like that is something that, you know, I think when some people look at the creator economy space and see all these, like, the Emma Chamberlains of the world launching their coffee brands, I don't think that they look well, really understand that behind the scenes they have like a team of people that are truly investing into them and making sure that they have the resources and tools and money that they need to get it done. So I definitely want to like just really hone in on the fact that you talked about knowing your audience, who you're marketing to, and what your market is, because that is so incredibly important. And also realizing that even if you do all the market research and you feel like you have a good understanding of who your audience is, that does not always mean that they're ready to buy, because
Ooh,
that's I've experienced that personally.
girl,
it's a
that.
it's
And
hard, it's a hard
Emma,
pill to swallow.
Emma's losing money on Chamberlain coffee.
Yes, I've heard
It
that too. Yeah.
she shared that herself, like it's an accomplishment,
Yeah.
but it's not in the green. And that's, I think that's really brave of you, Imani, to share that failure too. Mine would be, if I can help disillusion or break some things for people, anybody that's looking to get into voiceover acting, acting as an industry. You seen the strikes? We're not earning. 87% of actors are not making $26,000 a year to qualify for SAG AFTRA's health insurance. So, if that's any encouragement to anybody, acting is a beautiful art form that I hope we can continue to perform forever, but it's not a way to pay the bills. I don't recommend anybody get into acting as a means of hustling, or getting it out the mud or out the hood or none of that. It's an art form to pursue while pursuing other things. And so that's my own little glass crack, if I can give that to anybody, is it's a beautiful industry. As an actor, sometimes people will tell you this has to be your plan A. There can be no plan B. If this isn't everything you're doing, that kind of like mentality, let go of that. If you want to be an artist or be an actor, I think it's a beautiful thing to do to complement other entrepreneurial pursuits.
Absolutely. And I want to remind everyone of what Brandon said. We're not hustling, we're building, because we want soft life. Everybody, soft life. Repeat it to yourself, soft life. All right,
Soft
y'all.
life. Oh.
Well, we have about, Kara, I'm going to get back to you. We have about 10 or so minutes left, and I want to open up the convo to anyone from the audience who has questions or additional insights that they want to share. So if so, go ahead and raise your hand and I'll pull you up to the mic. And if not, we can keep asking the panelists questions. I'll give y'all a couple of minutes to do that.
While that's happening, Jay, can I ask a question of those on the panel?
Of course.
I wanted to ask, like, Amber, Kyra, Kadeem, for those of y'all who are in this moment, or maybe even Brandon, like currently working with creators, like, what do you want from creators? What do you want from Black creators? How can we be an asset to what you're working on?
I think that's a good question. I think you just gotta be yourself. To be honest, I'm one of those people. I feel like I could read someone, and especially when it comes to content nowadays, like Brandon was talking about, like a lot of people choose to pursue lightning in a bottle over longevity. And for me, like sometimes I just got to look at certain people, and just from their content, like I could tell that they're really trying to build something. They're not trying to like live in this moment and just capitalize off of this, but they want to have something that's long standing. So for me, that's what I always have kind of been hell bent on. That's how I do my things, how I look at life itself. So when I could pinpoint that in people, that's what I believe is like the true true partnership between creators who could really have some long lasting impact?
I'll keep it brief. Just know what you offer, know your brand. Being head of content, I oversee social media, blog, podcasts, landing pages, like anything content related. And when I'm even talking with my team about like creatives we want to work with, I just need to know like, cool, do they have their numbers? Are they KPIs? Like we're just moving so fast. I want to work with creators who know the exact audience they serve. They have their metrics. And this thing I even talk with like my creator friends in terms of knowing how much media value you offer. So I get most of my brand partnerships from LinkedIn, and even when I negotiate deals, I'm able to tell them, cool, I know the cost per click on LinkedIn is about $33. So based upon all these impressions, I just drove $18,000 worth of media impressions. So you want to work with me, do this, this. That able to close a deal so quickly that even on the other side, it just speeds things up.
Thank you, Brandon. I have my first two people from the audience up. I think it's Joel or Joel. Please correct me. Feel free to go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, no, it's Joel, but I really don't have it. Actually, I have one question that I'll keep it really quick. So picking back of the earlier conversation about bringing more awareness of like, okay, how can brands start tapping into interconnectivity? I want to expand just a little bit further of like just asking the bigger question of like to be able to make the foundational steps to make a path towards that goal, right? Do y'all feel that the biggest focus that we should as creators that we should take start leaning back into is like start with creating that foundation of like, okay, how can we build a foundation of understanding interconnectivity, especially within the Black creator economy. And thank you all so much for the gems that you dropped because I have a fire within me as a creative that's just lit that I'm gonna bring into my new like my own role because I want a world of creativity based off of interconnectivity because we should all celebrate our melting pots because we are all beautiful gems and we shouldn't have to hustle to have a soft life when that's what we deserve, like period, because we're all queens and kings. You know what I mean? So thank y'all so much, and I would love to connect with y'all. Like, oh, the preach,
Yes.
like for real. Like,
Joel.
I'm not trying to sound cheesy or anything, but thank y'all. Like, I mean
No,
it from the heart.
That
You
Joel,
know
was
I
what I
got
mean?
you.
beautiful.
I have
Thank
a
you.
quick rec for you because I recognize you and appreciate you. I want to say film festivals. I partnered with ABFF this year, American Black Film Festival. It's in Miami, June 12th to 16th. Pan African. It'll also be online later if you can't make it down to Miami. Pan African Film Festivals currently happening in the LA area. If you can attend a film festival, you get to see so many different walks of life represented quickly across different diasporas that are all submitting underneath this like Black culture umbrella. So online or in-person film festivals is just one way if you're like feeling outside the culture.
Oh my god, I appreciate that, Joy. I got flight credits, so I might cash those in to start using that. You know what I mean? But thank you.
Thank you for your question and thank you for your beautiful energy because you're right. We are all beautiful gems. I appreciate that. All right. So I think we have, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Clarine Mitchell.
Yes, it is Clarine Mitchell. I'm going to try to do this without being emotional. And forgive me if this is the first time I've ever met any of you online, but this conversation has been so rich in what my soul needed. And so I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. I've been creating content one way or another for over 30 years. First as a print journalist, public relations professional, and specifically LinkedIn focused since 2017. It's hard out here in these streets. I'm just going to say it like that. And so I have no question. I just wanted to say thank you. I especially appreciate the real conversation because it's hard, again, as Black creators, people who do what we do with integrity, without the gimmicks and the tricks, and, all of that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's all.
Thank you so much for the vulnerability. You are more than welcome to cry. You're about to make me cry. So thank you for sharing that. And just know that, like, one of the beautiful things about being in the creator economy space, whether you're Black or not, is that everyone, for the most part, is very willing to help and be supportive. So please feel free to reach out to anyone that you see. I'm like volunteering everyone, including myself, but please feel free to reach out to anyone that you see on this panel because I know someone would be willing to talk. Okay, so I'm going to move up Andrea and Kim, and I think those are all the questions that we can have time for.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea, and I actually wanted to piggyback on, I think, Joy, you were speaking about this, about Black women in the gaming space. So one of my clients, I do PR, and I manage PR for the community-powered business, Black Girl Gamers. And you're right, currently there's not any, stats about the purchasing power or how much revenue Black women in the gaming space is generating. However, gaming companies, beauty companies, TV and film companies are very aware of how much Black women are driving that. Because if I can tell you how many brands reach out to my client for brand partnerships to be able to partner with them or even consult with them, and I would find like the biggest issue is that they're not paying Black women how they want, how they need to be paid. They're always lowballing them, especially in comparison to like their white counterparts. So I do, want to ask you all, like, how have you all navigated, or how would you recommend like navigating when you do know that statistically your client is, and obviously they're very good about advocating themselves, and we do turn out specific brand partnerships when they're not getting paid. But if you can offer some recommendations in terms of like how we can continue advocating our space, especially for Black women in the gaming industry, because like they are driving forces. And I don't know if you noticed, like, but in the past decade alone, there have been more representation of Black women in gaming, and that's primarily because a lot of Black women content creators in the gaming space have been very vocal and holding these companies more accountable.
Hi, Andrea. I just wanted to speak to this because I think it's important. So I understand. So if you're saying that your client is in the gaming space, so this is basically what I do all day. The biggest thing that you can do for your client, and Brandon spoke to a really important piece of this, is gathering the metrics and data that you have access to and being able to package that and put an actual number on it. What the media value is of her content, how many people she's reaching, what the rate is per click, in terms of whatever types of content she's producing, whether it's video or through an email list or subscriber list. The second thing is, when you're pitching your client, one of the most important things you can do is, I think a lot of times there's this perspective where brands are like, maybe we think that brands are not willing to pay Black creators. All it takes is you sitting with a brand and having an honest conversation and saying, hey, I know that you don't have anybody else who can do this the way my client does. Here's all the reasons that you need her. Because really, the position is not for us to be banging down the door asking brands to work for us. It's about making the point that your client is so valuable to the brand that they're going to be losing out on making money if they don't pick her for this campaign. So when you're positioning your client, you want to position her as one of the strongest voices in the gaming community for Black women, et cetera, et cetera. However, you can position her so that she's unique and special, not an add-on to a campaign. And I think that comes back to making sure that you're working across with companies who have diverse teams, who are really understanding the importance of working with those creators. Because if you've got people reaching out for brand partnerships, you can leverage that and say, hey, we've actually already talked to 7 other brands about this. So if you're not going to meet her rate, there's absolutely nothing I can do about it.
So
And sometimes
it's actually not a person, it's an organization. I don't know if you're familiar with them. It's
okay,
Black Girl Gamers. The founders
okay,
Dina
yeah,
Lopez. Yeah, so so they're my client.
that's
So
even
it's not
better.
yeah, so like they are a very impactful organization in
Yeah,
the gaming space, but you'd be surprised at how many companies know that and they still come back to us and be like, we don't have a budget. Can you do it for free?
yeah,
And
no, that's not
that's
acceptable.
been,
Hmm.
one of our biggest challenges is like we come with the metric. We actually have a pretty like extensive deck with our results, case studies and everything, but we're still
Yeah,
finding that they are not approaching us with the dollars that they should be approaching us, even when we
Yeah.
do have the case studies, the numbers, and things like that. So we've been,
Okay.
working internally
Can
to
I ask
navigate.
you a question?
Mhm.
Okay, can I ask you a question? What are the types of brands? Are you talking like CPG, lifestyle brands? Like what kind of brands are you
So
are
with
you
obviously with gaming companies, we've also because there's a lot of IPs coming out right now in the TV and film space that are adjacent to gaming, and we're also anime
Okay.
adjacent. So there's things around that. We've also done some things with like beauty and fashion,
Yep.
because a lot of fashion and beauty brands are starting to transfer over into the gaming space because they see, obviously it's like $1 billion company, so there's dollars
Yeah.
there. So they've come to us for that reason as well too.
Yeah, I was going to say actually your best bet is probably going to be focusing on beauty or on beauty and lifestyle and then moving away from entertainment just as a not that it's not a good thing, but those typically have stronger budgets. You can reach out to me though if you want to follow up with me on LinkedIn on messaging and I can maybe help and make some recommendations for you.
Yes, I would love that. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
I would
Thanks.
agree. And anime, as much as we love the product, again, this is not a space that's like earning money or paying heavily. They pay us as artists, they pay us what they need to do to help create their games, and then they're done. We don't make residuals in anime. So I just wouldn't look for money there.
Thanks, Amber. Thanks, Joy. Andrea, I hope you got your questions answered. And I'm excited to hear that you and Amber are going to connect offline. That makes me happy. Yay, community. So we have a little bit of time for one more question. Kim, I'm going to let you go, but ask to keep it quick.
Yeah, thanks. This has been the best LinkedIn Live I've heard. So thank you to all of you. Question is for Kadeem. Kadeem has talked to some of our communities before at my company, Youth Culture Inc., and he's been a huge inspiration to them. Kadeem, one of the youth asked me the other day, they noticed your new business and they're wondering how you keep managing to evolve and pivot and what is sort of the secret magic to that.
Yeah, that's. I actually had a friend who asked me that yesterday too, because I started with a cookbook, then a clothing brand, and now we've now switched focus now to the cookie company. And for me, it's just I think life is like funny in that aspect where you have many passions, and sometimes you just have to look at it in terms of like, every passion doesn't have to go to this like the top of the mountain, right? Like it's just kind of like a part of the journey. And for me, I don't know, it's not that I get bored, but if a lot of people looked at kind of my journey and the things that I've done, they would see kind of how cohesive it is and how it's really in a cycle almost, right? Like I'm going now. I'm doing the cookies again. That was actually the first thing my wife and I did when we first got together 8 years ago. But it was a side business, and when we got the house in Florida, we wanted to create the branding and had branded boxes and the website and the photography. We wanted to go all out for it this time because I'm like, we have the space, we have the opportunity. But yeah, for me, I think it's something in this world where just a part of my personality and part of my culture where the innovation is just being able to reinvent myself because um, it helps to keep things refreshed in a sense that people are always kind of engaged with what I do. And it also builds more credibility because it's not as if I'm doing something and I'm doing it on a low level. Everything that I've touched, my wife and I have done together or separately have been very high quality. And it's also just kind of like growth, just understanding what I want to do moving forward, the different things I may end up liking. But I feel like you just got to feed your passions and realize that there are different times for them, just like there's a time and place for everything, and know when to kind of like jump towards that and continue to evolve.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kadeem. And thank you, Kim, for your question. I feel like that's a good thing to end on. Feed your passions and realize there is a moment for all of them. I feel like that's a good lesson for a lot of creators, especially those of us who have a variety of interests and talents. But unfortunately, guys, we are out of time for today's episode. But I wanted to thank everyone who tapped in for tea. I also want to shout out the panelists. I'm so grateful for all of you. And I so appreciate you guys for just showing up and showing out and being so open and transparent. Additionally, I want to give a shout out to Sprout Social again for sponsoring this episode. Because they did, I get to pay my panelists, which makes me happy. So thank you, Greg and Team Sprout, for being part of this. And finally, I will be uploading a replay of this episode to creatorteatalk.com early next week. There you can also subscribe to the Loose Leaf newsletter where I send updates about new episodes. And then finally, the next episode will be in March, not the end of February, because Mama is going on vacation to live her best life in the Dominican Republic. So thank you again for coming. And I hope you all have a great rest of the week. Bye, y'all.